Hello, I'm Jackie Lucky, your financial planning maestro. This series of podcasts is aimed at financial planning professionals and also those who are looking to enter the financial planning profession. We will be talking during the podcast about all things Certified Financial Planner certification related, talking to other CFPs around the world, and also we will be dropping in on some new entrants who've just entered the financial planning profession, and we'll be checking up along the way on a regular basis with them to see how they're getting on. I hope you enjoy today's podcast. Hello and welcome. I'm Jackie Lucky, your financial planning maestro. And today we are talking about all things Certified Financial Planner related. And I've been joined by a very special guest, and that is Katherine Pautard from Wealth Matters. Welcome, Katherine.
Hello, Jackie. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Lovely to have you here. And you have very recently been through the entire CFP process and just gained your CFP certification. So congratulations with all of that.
Thank you. Thanks.
And I wanted to talk to you about what your journey was like, not only to CFP, but also how you got into the profession and all sorts of other things. So we're going to cover lots of things in the next half an hour or so, aren't we?
Sounds good. Yep.
Right. So let's start where I like to start, and that is at the very beginning. So tell us a little bit about how you got into the financial planning profession and why you decided it was going to be the profession for you.
Okay. So it was actually a bit of an accident for me, to be quite honest. I left school thinking that I wanted to be a midwife. So I'd done my A-levels, always thought I would go into that sort of care industry. So either midwifery or nursing. Didn't quite get the grades that I really wanted or needed. So I thought I'll take a year out, I'll go and get a job and do some additional A-levels so that I could get into the university that I wanted to go to. Took a temping job at a pension and life company. And then that was meant to be for 3 months. 5 years later, I was still there. So I was, I know. So I was managing a team by that point. I'd taken a couple of exams. So I'd done my CF1, FA1, FA2, the certificate in pension administration and things like that. Yeah. And I was a team leader of a pensions administration team and claims team. And then I kind of just felt to myself like, I don't want to do this anymore. And I kind of need a little bit more of a push. I was a bit bored. So I took a job at a financial advisor's, thinking that I would kind of do all of my exams and train up to be a paraplanner. Because Esther, who I work with now, I'd worked with her originally when I was kind of 18 years old. She was a paraplanner. So I was like, right, this looks like a good course for me. I'm gonna go down this route. Yeah, it kind of works. The midwifery had completely gone out of the window after a few months of volunteering and working in a hospital. Right. Not for me. Not for you. Not for me at all. So that was out the window. So I worked at this financial advisory firm for about 2.5 years. Hadn't done any exams whilst I was there. Just wasn't really going anywhere. And that's when I was approached by Wealth Matters, by Julian, who Esther obviously already worked with him. And he offered me a job and said I could do all of the exams I wanted. The world is my oyster. Whatever you want to do, you can do. So here I am. So I started working there as a paraplanner just over 3 years ago, about 3.5 years ago now, actually. Fantastic. Did my diploma. And like you said, I've just finished my CFP.
Excellent. So quite a different route. But it's funny, isn't it? I guess you probably do, but I come across so many people who kind of fall into financial planning as a profession from all sorts of different places. And like me, I think I said to you the other day, didn't I? I wanted to be an astrophysicist. Yeah. So that's quite a difference between astrophysics and financial planning. But there you go. All maths related anyway. Yeah. So it's fine.
And I think as well, because I went through school not even knowing that this was an option. Yeah. So it was, you'd go to like the careers fairs and you'd sit in your, like when you're applying for university, and it would kind of be like, right, the options for you are nurse, doctor, teacher, police officer, lawyer, things like that. And I was like, well, I don't really fit into any of those categories. So it's kind of like, well, I'll go into nursing, I'll go into the care industry or something like that, because it seemed to fit a little bit more with my personality. But nothing like this was really ever discussed or given as an option.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably why most people kind of do fall into the industry, is because they're not aware that it is an option until they're a little bit older and they've finished university or they've had a bit of life experience first.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And I think, some of the original things, as you were just saying, part of your personality is that, you care about people. And actually, that's a major part of being a financial planner and being in the profession, isn't it? Where actually, from the outside, a lot of people might not really recognise that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I contacted a school a few months ago and said that I'd be interested in going in and talking to the students about this industry and the career that they could have. And they came back to me and they were like, oh, yeah, that'd be brilliant. I'll put you in a maths class. And I was like, no, it's not about maths. Like such a small minority of it, like tiny bit of this job is about maths. Like it's about relationship building, coaching your clients to get where they want to be, and basically being part of their life throughout your relationship you have with them, whether it be 30, 40 years. Yeah. And maths is kind of the bit that you might do in the background that no one really actually sees. And it's such a small part of what matters to people. And what matters to people is the relationships you build and the trust you build with them.
Yes, yeah. I had a similar experience actually a few weeks ago. I did some work with the year 12s at a local school, and they put me in with a group of 8 girls. And I was kind of like, I wanted to influence the boys, but I can kind of understand why, they put me in to influence the ladies there. And what was really interesting, I think the teacher was going to throw me out by the end of the session. They were doing mini presentations about the jobs that they aspired to do. Very interesting how so many of them followed exactly what their mums were doing as a profession, because they were inspired by their own mothers, which I think was fantastic. But some of them wanted to be a financial advisor. And they said, but, I have to go to university. I have to do a degree in finance. I have to do a master's degree in finance. Anyway, I sat there and went, nope. So I think the teacher was completely horrified, nearly fell off her seat. But, there are so many routes into the profession, aren't there?
Yeah, definitely, of course. And it's a case of I feel like maybe I'm not allowed to say this, but if you were to go to university and spend your 4 years doing your degree and then your master's, and then you kind of got to come out and do it all over again. Yes. And it's great if you're going for the experience and you want to do that. But at the end of the day, I didn't go to university, and I don't feel I missed out in any way, because it meant that I could learn whilst I was doing the job, and then also had the support from everyone that I worked with and all of my colleagues and everyone else in the industry to pass all of those exams whilst doing my job. And actually, I think I learned so much more from doing that.
Yes. Yeah, because I think when one of the things I quickly realised when I started working and doing the exams as well in financial services was that you could actually apply the knowledge that you were gaining. Whereas I guess at university, it's all theoretical, isn't it? You're not actually applying it. Whereas you're reading about it and then going, oh, actually, I've got a client in this kind of situation. What can I do about that? And I think it does help, bring it to life, makes it more interesting, and also helps you remember it too.
Absolutely. And when you're doing those initial exams, when you're doing the diploma, I think, especially if you're doing it when you're new to the industry, you are learning things, and then everything just kind of falls into place, because you know how overwhelming it is when you first start a new job or you start learning something new. It's so overwhelming. And then as soon as you're doing an exam or studying for an exam, and then you're working as well, everything just kind of falls into place, and you're like, wow, I actually know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's fantastic. It's a good feeling though, isn't it? Being able to help somebody, practically help them make a change to their lives, make a real difference to their lives. Yeah. So you went through all of this and got your diploma, and then how, obviously Julian's been extremely supportive of not just you, but all of the team there at Wealth Matters. How did you find out about the CFP? I guess because he's the CFP himself, isn't he? Did he just kind of say, right, come on, Katherine, keep going? Or, how did you kind of think, right, now's the time, I'm going to embark on the Certified Financial Planner?
Yeah, so for me, as I said, I was obviously a paraplanner when I first started Wealth Matters. I worked really, really closely with Julian. So I was Julian's dedicated paraplanner working with his clients. I'd done my diploma, and then we went into the first lockdown.
Yep.
So we were doing loads and loads of Teams calls, and it got to the point where Julian was like, oh, can you start joining these and maybe doing a little bit more of the presentation and things like that? Because it started off as it was probably like, you're a bit better on IT than I am. And then the time went by and it was just kind of, I was doing more and more and more. And we sat down and we had a conversation, and he said, well, how would you feel about becoming financial planner? Wow. So take a step back from the paraplanning, take over some of my clients for me. And then what about doing your CFP? And it's always been, because obviously we're an accredited firm. Yes. So it's always kind of been on the cards. I wasn't sure whether it would be quite this soon, but it just happened really, really naturally.
Yeah.
And I just thought, I'm given this opportunity. I'm not going to turn this opportunity down. I've just got to kind of grab it and run with it, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm
absolutely.
glad I did.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, fantastic. Well, I'm very glad to have you as a certified financial planner, most definitely. Yes. So tell us a bit about your experience with, you went through the level 6 exam and then on to the level 7 case study.
Yeah. So again, did all of it during lockdown. Everyone was saying to me, oh, it's the best time to do it because you've got nothing to distract you. You can't go out. You can't go on holiday. I actually think it was probably the worst time to do it for me, to be quite honest, because I had no distraction, nowhere to go. So it was kind of like working and then straight on to studying. So it was really tough. Yeah. Anyone that's done it or even thinking about doing it, has spoken to anyone about doing it, knows that it's really, really time consuming. Yes. You have to put your all into it, basically. You've got to juggle that with working full time. Most people juggling with their family as well. So, yeah, it was hard. It was really hard, but you just kind of have to put that time aside and say, right, I'm working until this time, then this is my time to study, because you want to pass that exam and then you want to pass your case study. So you need to give it that time to do it. And I think I just kind of had to sit down and say to myself, right, I need to spend this amount of time on this day and do X, Y, and Z. And then obviously I did the course to help with the calculations and things like that for the case study assessment as well.
Yep.
Which really helped. And that will probably be one of my tips to anyone, to take any courses, any help they can get.
Yep.
Just to kind of take a little bit of that pressure off, because otherwise I think you look at that case study and you're like, where do I start?
Yes.
You just do not know where to start. So that is really, really important.
And some people have said to me about the case study that it kind of looks quite straightforward. But it's not until you kind of dive into it that all of a sudden, you've got 4 different objectives that you're trying to meet all at the same time. And then the whole thing kind of starts to go a bit sideways, doesn't it?
Exactly. And I think obviously I was a paraplanner before. So I kind of looked at the case study and thought, oh yeah, like that'll be fine. I can write that. I write these every day. Yeah. Like I write full financial plans for my clients every single day. Like it'll be fine. And then once you start to pick out, right, you've got the short-term goal, you've got the medium-term goal, you've got the long-term goal, you've got to cover what happens if someone dies, what happens if someone can't work. And it's just, you do that day to day. But when you're being told, right, you need to do all these spreadsheets, and then this is what the exam board want to see, or the assessors want to see. Yes. And then this is what the outcome is going to be. It's kind of like you look at the outcome and you think, yeah, I can do that. But once you break everything down and everything interlinks, you get kind of one little bit wrong and it kind of will interlink with everything. So you just have to be really, really careful and really thorough.
Yeah.
As well. Yeah. It's something you can't rush. I mean, I was told that someone had done it in 48 hours over a weekend and locked themselves in their house. I was just like, how? How did they do that in 48 hours?
That's certainly not my experience. Most of the people I see, it's kind of definitely more than 60 and actually closer to 100 hours of work. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
It's funny, isn't it? I guess everybody's different, and also depending on what your natural style of writing reports is. When I used to write my reports, when I did my CFP, I got told off by the assessors for waffling too much, because you want to try and explain things, as simply as possible, and it can be more complicated when you're trying to explain lots of complicated things as simply as possible. You kind of end up, this whole thing starts to grow and grow on you, doesn't it?
Yeah. And I think the thing I most struggled with, and I know when we spoke, when I did my first submission, I was like, I feel like I haven't written enough, but I feel like I don't need to.
Yep.
So I was kind of struggling with that a little bit. But I think because I was so used to writing the report and then presenting the report, it was kind of a case of, if I wrote a report for a client and then I was then presenting it and talking them through it, it didn't matter if I hadn't explained things fully in the report, because I would explain things to them face to face to make sure they understood it. But obviously the assessors want to see that I know what I'm talking about, so it has to go in the report. And I think that's maybe one of the things that I struggled with a little bit.
Yes. Yeah. I guess it's a combination of your report plus your post-meeting report, isn't it?
Exactly.
Both those two squashed together.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Wow. But it only took, two submissions in total, wasn't it? And then you passed with flying colours. And actually, the second submission, it wasn't actually that much work, because I think, I come across quite a lot of people who kind of get to a point of think, I don't know if I've got enough time to devote to this. And I always say, give it maximum effort to get as close to the pass mark as you can on your first submission, because you've got those 3 submissions, haven't you?
Yeah, exactly. And I think don't be ashamed of having to use them. Don't worry if you don't pass. I kind of knew when I submitted my first one that I wasn't going to pass, but I didn't know what to do to pass, if that makes sense.
Yes.
I kind of felt like I wouldn't be too far away, but I didn't really know what else I could do at that stage to make sure I had it, to be honest. Yeah. And then obviously when I got my feedback back, we had a catch up, didn't we?
Yes.
And you helped me break it down. And I think that was really the biggest help that I had throughout the whole process, because I don't think I would have been able to break it down in quite the same way that you did. And I think I would have probably got a bit stressed, quite overwhelmed, to be honest. But we sat down for half an hour, however long it was. And we said, right, you need to do this, 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 and this. If you do it in this order, it's all going to come together. And by the time I'd finished, I thought, this is it.
Nailed it.
Yeah.
And you did. Fantastic.
I think I would have struggled to do it again, to be honest.
Yeah. But I guess the thing is, if you're putting your heart and soul into this thing, aren't you? And, I know from personal experience as well that it's, I passed on my second submission too, and it can feel quite demoralizing getting the feedback from your first submission, even though you kind of know that you're probably not going to get through. I mean, statistically, the vast majority of people don't get through on their first submission. Yeah. And it's a bit like passenger driving test. I think the best people always pass second time round anyway. Don't tell anybody else that. But actually, you put so much of yourself into the plan that if you don't pass on the first submission and you get your feedback letter and you just kind of think, oh gosh, it can be really deflating. And then you can kind of go, well, what is it? What's wrong with it? And that's the tricky bit, isn't it? Trying to identify, what do I have to concentrate on?
But then when you really pay attention to what you have to concentrate on, you're like, oh yeah, I get it now. So it's kind of one of those things, like, don't get too worked up about the fact that you then haven't passed the first time when you get that result back. Just take a couple of days and then pick it up again, read through it again, read through the feedback notes, and then you'll be like, oh yeah, I know I haven't done that. I haven't done this. Like I can't even remember what it was. It was something to do with some protection. I missed out such a big chunk that would have got me so many marks. And I didn't even realize I hadn't done it. I thought I had, and I didn't even realize I hadn't done it. So that for me was, again, just like, I'm kind of glad in a way that I didn't pass first time, because at least it meant that I realized the mistakes that I'd made. And
yes, yeah, absolutely. And moving forward since passing, how has it helped you look at reports differently, or helped you in meetings, conversations with clients at all?
I think it's helped in meetings and conversations with clients, definitely. I think, to be honest, it's kind of given me, it's more of a personal thing. It's given me more confidence because I haven't been doing this job for so long. It's kind of been a year and a half-ish.
Yeah.
It's just given me that confidence, and I approach the relationship with clients in a different way. I think with regards to how we write reports and things like that, because Julian was already CFP and he has always kind of followed that holistic structure of you do the review, you do the cash flow modelling, you stress test and things like that, and you build someone a financial plan. That part of it kind of was already there. It made me understood why we did it a little bit better. But I definitely think it's more of a personal journey for me, and it's just given me that confidence and to kind of back myself a little bit more when I'm going into meetings with clients as well, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And, you know your stuff. And I guess it's different. Everybody's a little bit different, but having that confidence, being able to say, you are a certified financial planner, you've earned your stripes, haven't you? That's the thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. Yeah, and I think that helps in my situation, kind of being a young female. It's been always something that you kind of come across. And at least now I can be like, well, I'm a certified financial planner. So it kind of backs you a little bit more as well on those things that maybe people might look at you and think, oh, that's not really what I was expecting my financial advisor to be like or to look like. So it gives you that little bit of strength above everything else as well, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that leads me nicely on to talk about all your awards, because you've won a few different awards in the last 12 months or so, haven't you? And I was at a dinner the other day, at the professional advisor dinner, and all of a sudden your name was called out and you weren't there. I was going to rush up and accept your award for you.
Oh, I wish you had.
I was like, where is she? I'll go.
It's finally arrived safely, though. So that's in the office so that everyone can see it when they come in, which is nice.
Yeah. And that was the Rising Star Award, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. So that was a bit of a crazy week for me. So I was obviously nominated for the award. We put in my submission. And then I think I had an email on the Monday night saying, are you coming? We can't see your name on the seating plan. And I was like, well, unfortunately, I can't be there. And then I woke up on the Tuesday. Oh, no, it was on the Tuesday night, I think, wasn't it? I woke up on the Wednesday morning from a email from Adam at NextGen. Yeah. And he just sent me a photograph of my name on the screen. And he was like, you won. And I was like, oh, that's amazing. So I went into work, kind of told everyone, but then nothing really happened. And I was like, have I made that up? Did Adam get it wrong?
You're dreaming it.
Yeah. And then the Thursday, my results for my CFP came in. So it was a very, very overwhelming week.
Yeah,
a good one.
Amazing. Yeah. Well done on all of that.
You.
I think it's, you've been quite an inspiration to, lots, particularly I think for women in the profession, winning the Rising Star Award and passing your CFP, they're, huge milestones. You should be justifiably very proud. I'm sure you are.
Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I am very proud. Didn't see myself being here when I was temping that job.
Yeah. And, what would you say, in the financial planning profession, over the years when I was your age, that sounds patronising, don't mean to be patronising, when I was a lot younger than I am now, when I started in the profession, I would go to conferences and events, and sometimes I was the only female in the room with perhaps 200 or 350 men. I was talking to Gretchen Betts the other day. We were talking about the first financial planning conference that I went to. And I said to the audience, do you want to guess how many females were in the audience? And she said 2. And she was only one out. There was 3 of us in an audience of 350 people. And so things have changed quite substantially, in the last 20 years or so. But, what would you say to women thinking about either staying in the profession or maybe entering the profession? Because I think there do seem to be quite a lot of women who are thinking twice about going into the profession, whether to enter it or whether they're in it and just in an administration role, whether they actually want to stay in it long term.
That's a tough one, because I know exactly what you mean. When I first started in the industry, I'd go to those conferences and they were uncomfortable, they were horrible. It was just not a nice place to be in. But I think you need to surround yourself by different people. So we both went to the Next Gen conference a couple of months ago, didn't we? Or a couple of weeks ago. I can't even think what the date is today.
Yes.
And it's a completely different world.
Yeah.
You don't walk into that room and think, oh, like I'm in a room full of middle-aged men. It's not like that at all. It's so diverse and it's like equal. If anything, there was actually probably more women there this year than most conferences you go to. Yeah. And it's just so nice to be in that situation. And I think if you're thinking of leaving the industry altogether because you feel uncomfortable or you don't like the way you're treated because you're a woman, then you're working for the wrong company.
Yes.
I think it's as simple as that, to be honest.
Yeah.
You need to go and find an employer that's going to treat you exactly the same as a man, and like there not be kind of any differences there, or support your needs, whatever you need. It's just, I don't see it where I work, and I don't really think I see it with my clients either, because I gain their trust quite early on. I show them that I know what I'm talking about. And then the fact that I'm a woman and under the age of 30 just completely goes out the window.
Yes, it's irrelevant, isn't it?
It's completely irrelevant. Yeah. Like I took over Julian's clients from him. So it was some of our longest or highest value clients that Julian was working with as the director and the founder of Wealth Matters. And he passed his clients down to me. So that as well gave me that confidence that like, well, he believes in me, so I need to believe in myself. And also my clients had already seen that I could do it. So there was no issue there with moving from kind of the founder of the business to the young woman that works for Julian sort of thing.
Yeah. So, I think a lot of it is what goes on in our own heads, isn't it?
Yeah.
And, we kind of get wound up ourselves when actually we're trying to second guess what other people may or may not be thinking about us.
Yeah.
And actually, if you, like you say, having the CFP, Julian has the confidence in you, the whole firm at Wealth Matters has the confidence in you. And, you've got to know your clients. So there's no reason. It just, some of it, I think we just doubt ourselves from time to time.
Absolutely. Yeah. And just be yourself as well, because it's really hard to play a character all the time. Yes. And it's hard to read off a script all the time. So you just need to be you, and people will see that and they'll like you for that. And then you're going to do very well off the back of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Great tips. And, to the women who are out there thinking of joining the advice profession, it's not about targets. It's not just about, selling products, and that's where I think, maybe it goes back to, some of the work that you were saying you were doing in schools, that it's not about financial advice and selling products. It's all about, looking for a financial planning firm that's actually doing financial planning, not just selling advice and selling products on the back of it.
Yeah, exactly. I could not imagine myself being an advisor selling a product. That's just not me. My strong point and how I am kind of doing so well at this profession is the fact that I am good at building relationships with people. I'm good at building that rapport and that trust.
Yes.
And that's what it really is about for me. So of course we have targets and things like that, but it's about making sure that my clients are happy and they're comfortable and they're not stressed and anxious and worried that they're going to run out of money by the time they're 80 years old. It's about helping them to fund their children through university, or go on that once of a lifetime trip, or move to a different country because that's what they want to do, or retire early, or take that job that they never were able to do because it paid half the salary that they're currently getting. It's just about helping those people make those choices and adjustments to have a better life, really.
Yes. Yeah. Better quality of life all round, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And it's very rewarding personally, isn't it, for you to be able to help guide and help clients make those kinds of decisions.
Yeah. And you're a part of their life for that period of time that they're doing it. And it's so nice when you get the emails through like, oh, we've had our offer accepted on the house. I can't wait for you to come around and see it. Or this has happened and that has happened. And my son's just got a first class honours degree. It's just so nice to be a part of that, and to think that like, oh, we've kind of helped them or at least taken away some of that pressure to allow them to go off and do those things.
Yes. Yeah. And that's what life's all about. I think, the pandemic has really focused people's minds on that quality of life and getting a better work-life balance, hasn't it?
Absolutely. It's seen a massive shift, like such a huge shift in some of our clients, especially saying they want to stop working earlier, or they're going to start looking for another job, or buying that holiday home that they've always been talking about. Just so many people have made that shift, or stopping work altogether to be at home with their family.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it's really great. Well, we are nearly at the end of our time together. The time has absolutely flown by, Katherine. So let's just return to the CFP. And, there are lots of people out there who listen to this podcast who are either thinking of embarking on the process, or maybe imminently trying to dip their toe in the water to embark on the CFP process in the UK. Do you have any, you've shared lots of tips along the way already, but do you have any other final tips to share with our audience?
I think I'll probably end up repeating them a little bit, but plan. So allow yourself that time. Don't try and juggle too many things. So sort everything out in advance. So if you've got childcare, family commitments and things like that, sort it out in advance so you know that you're spending X amount of time on your CFP. When you do the case study, I found it wasn't like other exams where you can kind of say to yourself, I'll do an hour every evening, or an hour in the morning, an hour at night. You need to give yourself blocks of time, so 5 hours at a time sort of thing, so that you can really get your teeth into it. Yeah. Take all of the help that you can get. Don't be ashamed for asking for help. Talk it through with people. Get in touch with Jackie. I'm plugging you here, aren't I? Get in touch with Jackie for some training sessions. And just don't give up. Just keep going. If you don't pass first time, just keep going, because you put so much work into that first submission or that first sitting of that exam that it would be such a shame to give up. So just keep going.
Keep doing it. Keep at it. You'll get there definitely. In the end.
Exactly. And one thing actually that's just popped into my head just before we finish is you mentioned about what would you kind of say to women wanting to join the industry.
Yeah.
Another thing I would say is I've actually found it to be a real positive with some of the clients that I've worked with. So over the last 12 months, I've had people specifically ringing me because they've seen my photograph and my bio on our website to say that they feel that I would be a good fit because they think I might be able to speak to their wife in a certain way to help them understand it and have a better relationship with them, or divorced women have come to me because they don't feel comfortable potentially working with men. So I think use it to your advantage sometimes as well. It could potentially be a niche for you. So I think you just have to go with it sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. And on that note, we're going to end now. Thank you so much, Katherine, for taking the time to chat to us today. I'm sure there are lots of people out there who will continue to be inspired by everything that you've achieved so far. And I'm sure, knowing you've got other things in the pipeline. You'll be scheming away for other things coming up in the future. So thanks again for your time. And I'm sure that our audience is going to be very grateful to listen to all your tips that you have given us today.
Thank you, Jackie. I appreciate that.
I hope you enjoyed today's podcast. It's really interesting, isn't it, to listen to other people's points of view about different things, all relating to our wonderful financial planning profession. If you know anyone who might be interested in listening to any of these podcasts, please pass on our details to them. So that's it from me. Join me again next time when we'll be talking all things certified financial planner related, and also dropping in on our new entrants to the financial planning profession. Bye for now.